Let me ask you something. What's the one thing every successful advisor, every high net worth client, and every top producer I've ever worked with have in common? It's not intelligence, it's not credentials, it's confidence. Now, I don't mean fake it till you make it bravado. I mean the kind of unshakable belief that lets you walk into any room and on your own value, even when you're unsure, even when you're new, even when the stakes are high. Here's the truth. I've been the top producer at every firm I've worked at, not because I had the fanciest brochures or the most common connections, but because I knew how to build belief in myself. And today I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. So I'm joined by my co-host here, Matt Floyd, someone who's not only a consultant to top advisors, but also someone who's taken these confidence strategies, applied them in real life, and has seen massive results in the field.
Yeah, Kevin, this one really does hit home. I've had the doubts. I've had that voice in my head saying, "Are you ready for this? You can't do it." I've had that. But putting your framework into action, man, it changed everything. And I've seen advisors go from hesitant to unstoppable just by tweaking how they show up.
Yeah, if you're listening right now and you've ever questioned whether you're good enough, smart enough, or ready enough, this episode's for you. So stick around because we're about to give you the playbook that turns hesitation into momentum and belief into bankable results. All right, Matt, before we jump into the how, let's talk about why confidence even matters in this business. Because I see advisors chasing every sales tactic, every product training, every shiny new lead system, but skipping that one thing that ties it all together.
And that's the confidence. I didn't even realize what I was lacking until we started working together. I thought I had a skill problem, but really it was a belief problem.
Exactly, Matt. People think confidence is some personality trait you're born with, but here's the truth. Confidence is earned. It's the result of keeping promises to yourself, showing up prepared, and taking action even when you're nervous.
And I remember the first time you told me that. I was stressing over calling this big time advisor, thinking I wasn't ready, and you looked at me and said, "Matt, you're already ready. You just don't believe it yet."
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That's the craziest part. You already had everything you needed. You just needed someone to call out the confidence that was buried under all that overthinking that he had going on.
Right. And after that call, I stopped hesitating. I booked that meeting and it wasn't perfect. But the fact that I did it anyway, that gave me a boost that nothing else could. It's almost like I had to take my foot off first so I could get to second, and I was just hesitant to do that.
Yeah, that's the key. Confidence doesn't show up, before action. It shows up because of action.
Right.
So let's be clear here. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not pretending you know everything. It's knowing deep down that you're capable of figuring it out.
Right, and that's a big distinction, because before I thought confidence I had to have all the answers, that I was impervious or bulletproof. But now I realize it's more about trusting that you can figure it out along the way, rather than knowing everything before you go.
That's bingo. That's really it. When you carry that energy into a room, whether you're pitching a client, you're teaching a class, you're leading a team, people feel it. Confidence makes people lean in. It makes people trust you. It makes people want to follow you.
That's exactly right, and I see it all the time with advisors. The ones who are confident, not cocky, but grounded, they attract the better clients. They get the bigger cases, and honestly, they probably enjoy the process way more than.
Absolutely. Confidence drives action. It inspires trust. And here's the secret. It also makes you more resilient because when you're confident, you don't crumble after a no. You bounce back, you adjust, you stay in the game.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest shifts for me. I used to take rejection personally. Now it's just data. It doesn't rattle me the way it used to. There's always more no's than yeses, but there's always more opportunities than no's. And just switching into that mindset gives you that confidence to make the next call.
Exactly. And for the folks listening right now, I want you to ask yourself this. What would I do if I wasn't afraid of failing? Because your answer to that, that's probably the next bold step you need to take.
Yeah, and Kevin, that question alone is worth this.
Yeah. It's it, it's let me give you the first challenge here. So write down one thing you've been avoiding because of fear and circle it. Commit to tackling just that one small piece of it this week. Confidence is built one courageous step at a time. All right, Matt, let's break this down plain and simple. Confidence isn't a feeling you wait for, it's something you build. It's like a muscle, and you build it with three things: clarity, preparation, and action.
Yeah, and you've told me that so many times over lunch. And at first I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, that might have worked back in your days. But that's not how it is now. But then I started seeing it happen. Like when I finally stopped overthinking my outreach, just made the calls. Like I said before, it wasn't perfect. But I felt stronger every time I did it.
Exactly. People think confidence comes from success, but it's really the other way around.
Yeah.
Success comes from taking action before you feel ready. It, here's a framework that I've taught for years now. It's the same stuff I talk about in Mastering the Art of Influence, the book that breaks down how to build trust, listen better, and lead conversations.
Yeah, and that book seriously changed how I talk to advisors. Like, it gave me permission to stop pitching and just connect with them. Start active listening and just having a conversation. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You have a conversation and it doesn't go your way. That's it.
Yeah, exactly right. I love that. It is so here's how it works. Your first step is clarity. You got to know what you're good at, not what you're trying to be good at, but what's already giving you that edge. And everybody's got that.
Well, like when we sat down and you had me list out my actual strengths, and like, dude, I was overlooking the fact that breaking down complex stuff into simple ideas, that's my lane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say that. Once you see your edge, you start leaning into it harder. The second thing I want to talk about is preparation. Matt, you've seen me preparing for big meetings. I don't wing it. Sometimes you may like, well, that's a pretty big meeting. Doesn't seem like he's doing it, but I've been doing it so long. A lot of it's kind of second, hand nature.
Yeah. Oh, you're legendary for that binder. Every number, every objection's already scripted. You already know the move before they make it. And if you're pitching a client, you're ready to go to contract at that meeting, whether they are or not. You've planned for that eventuality, and that goes back to the confidence. Like, I'm gonna be so good at
Exactly.
this. I know they're gonna go with me. I know I'm gonna close, and I'm ready for it when they are. So you don't leave a deal sitting on.
Yeah, exactly. Confidence skyrockets when you know your material cold. And the last piece that I want to talk about here is action, because you don't read your way to confidence. A lot of people do this whole study, and back that's what you did in school. You prepared for the test,
You
you
crammed.
you crammed,
Yeah.
and then you go in, and then it's like, uh, oh, do I know the answers? And so the whole time you're in front of a client, your brain's working too fast. You're not listening here. And so I always say, after you got that belief in yourself, and you're out there doing it, action's the key right here. You don't need to read, like I said, you don't need to read your way through confidence. You don't meditate your way there. You act your way there, which means you're doing it there. So every dial, every appointment, every awkward first step builds that muscle. That's why I'm always like, find the next guy, because all it does is it gets you more confident, more juiced. You get the
Right.
energy. That's the key.
Yeah, and I mean the reps matter more than the results right now. And once I embraced that, everything changed. Even the no's felt like wins because I knew I was stacking momentum. And worst case, I was learning something. I was like, all right, well, don't lead with that one next time. Like whatever your icebreaker was or whatever joke you
Yeah.
told, let's tear that out of the playbook.
Yeah.
Let's learn something from this. So they're still even wins if you're taking something from it. Like learn to look for the silver lining almost
Right.
from a bad conversation or a deal that didn't go your way. Well, what did we learn from it?
Yeah.
Some
Sometimes,
will, some won't. So find the
so
next
what
guy. Yeah.
next? Exactly right. That's the key. And a lot of times the no's you end up learning more than the yeses.
Yeah. Every time.
So, now I want to touch for those that are actually advisors that are listening. If you just focus on clarity, preparation, and action, you won't even recognize yourself from a year from now. And trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. When guys make that commitment, it's a game
Right.
changer.
And it blends over into other parts of your life as well.
Exactly.
Like a
Exactly.
force multiple.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about that sneaky little devil. I like to call it the imposter syndrome. Because here's the deal, every top performer I've ever coached has wrestled with it. Me too.
I'll raise my hand right now. First year in this role, I kept thinking, why would these advisors listen to me? They've been doing this longer than I've been alive, and I got some 80-year-old advisors in my book here.
Yeah.
That's twice as long as I've been alive. But like you said,
Yeah, that's it. I told you that you're not paying your age, you're paying for clarity. That's the key.
yeah, and I needed to hear that. Once I stopped comparing myself to guys with 30 years of experience and just focused on what I could offer right, I showed up completely different. You may have
That's
been in the
right.
business 30 years, but this product's been on the market 3 days and I've read the heck out of it.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you about it.
Yep.
And they didn't know anything about it. And that confidence,
Right.
and it builds on itself. Confidence builds more confidence.
And that's the key. It- when you're up there and you're doing it every day, you're doing it more times than your clients, your advisors are doing it to their
Right.
clients because you're on the phone, you're thinking about it. You're making, 15, $20 an hour. You're talking to two or three people and you're talking about the product. They're asking questions and it's ingrained in your head. And a day or two of that, there's not a question they can't ask you
Yeah.
that you don't
And
know.
even
Right.
it's not even just the conversations. I script out my voicemails. Like
Right.
I'm most
Key.
of the time I'm expecting to hear that voicemail beep. And the first 5 or 6 times I read that scripted voicemail, it sounds cold and herky jerky. By the 50th time I'm saying that voicemail, I sound like I work for the company I'm pitching them.
Yeah.
And I had 5 seconds to tell them about it, and I got to get on the phone to the next person. And
That's
I just
right.
feel more confident and I'm ready for that person to pick up the phone. Like, what is you talking about? Get me contracted? Yeah. Five
Yeah.
minutes. Give me 5 minutes. I got you.
Yeah, that's the key, Matt. So everyone listening, here's a few ways to beat that self-doubt into submission. So first, reframe that inner critic that we all got. Instead of saying I'm not experienced enough, flip it to I'm a quick learner who brings fresh ideas and see that shift. You'll see that
Yeah, and it's
shift.
a huge shift. It sounds small. It sounds like that's not. But once you m- reframe your own mind and you adopt that as kind of your personality, it's all downhill after that.
Yeah.
It gets so much easier. I mean, that one tweak changed my approach to every single.
Yeah. That's a good tweak. It's not asking for a lot, but it's just a little
Right.
tweak. So the second thing that I think is huge, especially for guys in sales, girls in sales, people in sales, um, track your wins, because you get so many no's. And then if you're not in that right perspective and that right frame of mind, you may go driving home at the end of the day going, this was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. But if you're tracking your wins, um, it's a good start to do it like what I call a victory log, right? And I know that you've done
Yeah.
that on
My
that
whole
whiteboard.
dry erase board is a victory log.
Exactly right.
And I still have it. I add to it every time. I've even gotten into this habit of where if I help one of my advisors with something tough, the next person I talk to, I give them that success story. I was like, "Oh, you think you got a tough case? listen to this client I just found insurance for that has been turned down 10 times and they thought they were a lost cause. And I was able to come up with that to work with me
Right.
because how much business have you sent out the door options because you didn't know about all of
Yeah.
them? And having that confidence and tell somebody that's been doing it for 3 decades, listen, I probably know more than you. I may be a young gun, but
Yeah.
I know more than you. And my bullets fire real fast.
That's right. And you don't have to say that. It's just the way you project your voice
Exactly.
that because you've got that inner confidence, you're not overthinking like you
Right.
were in the beginning. It's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I might just get out and do it.
Right, and,
Get your nose bloody."
sometimes redefining what is a win.
Right.
Hey,
That's good.
I
Yep.
closed the guy and he gave me $1 million of annuity premium on the same call. That's a heck of a win. That's not
Right.
gonna happen 100 times a day.
That's right,
So,
unfortunately.
maybe a win is your goal is 75 dials a day,
Yeah.
and you dialed 105 dials and left 105 voicemails and didn't connect with a human being all day. Take that as a win because you did about 50% more than what you were shooting to do. You
That's
were
right.
overproductive and you just put 40, 50 extra lines out into the ocean, and somebody's gonna grab that bait you put out there.
That's
So
right.
kind of redefine what exactly is a win. You have your like super wins that you always shoot best case scenario, but you can't go out shooting for best case scenario every time because your confidence will get shattered. Because it's
Yeah.
not gonna be the best case every time, no matter how
Yeah.
good you are.
And I think a lot of people going to your fishing analogy, a lot of people you're they're casting that one line waiting for the fish to bite. Whereas if you see a charter boat, they'll have 5, 7 lines
Yeah.
out there trying to get one of those lines. And when one hits, sometimes the second one hits and it's all that momentum and you get that when you're prepared and you got that clarity and
Yeah,
that
I mean, you
confidence.
can't catch a 500-pound marlin on
That's
every
right.
cast, but if you don't catch any marlin and you go home with 12 grouper,
It's
that's a heck of a dinner right there.
you're eating well.
Ain't nobody complaining.
You're eating well. Yeah.
And yeah, that victory log, it's a reminder that you could
Yeah,
that like,
that's
hey,
right.
I can do this because look, I've already done it. Like,
That's
what's
right.
wrong with me? Nothing. I can do that. Whoever did that is sitting right here.
That's
Let me
right.
get after it. Let me
That's right.
act.
That's exactly right. You gotta create, you got that's how you create proof for your
Right.
brain,
Yeah.
because that brain inside your head, that can be a nemesis, and a lot of people, it's fragile, and they let that just control them
Right.
instead of if you've got what you've defined as a victory,
Mhm.
then that's a win in itself, and that helps ingrain that
Right.
confidence, right? Um, so you really don't need outside validation. You need your own receipts, right? Um, you need to, this is how you get around to the right people. And I'll tell you this, confidence is contagious. And Matt, I've seen your confidence. It didn't just grow because of reps. It grew because we normalize winning in conversations daily,
100%. I mean, you surrounded me with winners, and suddenly big results didn't feel impossible. They kind of expected.
Right. Yeah, and when you're talking to people, you're always sharing something like, "Hey, if you follow this, you're going to take your production and you're going to 10x it, maybe 20x
Yeah,
it, but you got to follow our system, and the system works." And
does, yeah.
and having that confidence, and then getting advisors to get out of their comfort zone. A lot of people don't understand that these guys are kind of in their own little office
Right.
with what they know instead of, hey, if I could take myself out of that comfort zone a little bit, gain some confidence in the process that we do, it really does
Right.
just ingrain that confidence.
Right.
So whether you're in front of speaking to people or in that one-on-one meeting, people are going to follow you
Right.
because of that confidence
And
level.
you mentioned 10x. We're a 10x office. I mean, you have a 10x mentality. I have a 10x mentality. I tell people that on the phone. I'm like, listen, whatever you made last year, my goal for you is 10 times that.
That's right.
Whatever, if you made $200,000, good. Let's go for 2 million this year.
That's right.
You know what? If I fall short and don't do all of my job, I only get you to 1.6 million. You're gonna hate me? They're like, what? Absolutely not. I'll name all my god kids after you,
Yeah,
and my
right,
pets,
right.
and my goldfish. So and having that confidence of saying, I've taken people 10x before, and
That's right.
there's nothing different from what they're doing that you're doing except adopting our process and being coachable. That's
That's
the
right.
main thing, and
Yeah.
that coachability builds confidence. Michael Jordan went to practice every year Greatest basketball player alive. He didn't skip practice.
Yeah.
He went and he listened to his
Still
coaches.
took on the
Yeah, he
coaching.
still took
Yep.
on that
Tiger
coaching.
Woods still
Yeah,
has a swing coach,
exactly. Yeah,
even in his prime. Scotty Scheffler
yeah.
still got a swing coach.
And getting that right audience around you.
Yeah, that's right.
That's key because what are you you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time
Yeah,
with. So you hang out with winners, and by default, you'll just be a winner. You'll
that's
be a
right.
winner by kind of just association.
Right. And if you're in the if you feel like you're always the sharpest person in your circle, you're in the wrong room. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
you
Find a new room.
go find a new
Yeah.
room. Go take yourself to the next level. So if you're we'll go to client base, the annuity producers. If you're doing 2 million and they're all right around there, you're doing more than them. Well, there's a lot of guys that are doing 10, 15, 20, 100. Go take yourself to the next
Right.
level. And, obviously you're very adept to helping people get there
Yeah.
as long as they're coachable. Right.
Right.
And you'll instill that confidence. And I see so many people, they're chasing perfection. It's like, oh, let me rewrite this. Now, just confidence grows when you're okay showing up a little messy, figuring it out, kind of learning in public. It's like, hey, I've got the perfect script. You go in and like you said earlier, you'd left 105 and no one called up. Guess what? It's probably not a perfect script. Probably not a very good voicemail.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's tweak it,
Let's tweak it a
right?
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we know what doesn't work.
That's right. And
Yeah.
then you get another one. I used to do this all the time. And then I'd leave the voicemail and I'd get 5 callbacks from 20 voicemails. I'm like, mark this one.
Print it and frame
This
it.
is gold right here,
Yeah.
because you're trying to get that conversation and see who's working on
Yeah,
what.
and perfection. I mean, it's such an impossible standard to have because what's perfect? Anything you can perfect, I bet you I can name something a little more perfect.
Exactly.
Once I decided that why am I chasing perfection when excellence will do? It
That's
all
right.
changed.
Yep.
Because then I didn't have to live up to this impossible standard where the goalpost is constantly moving. It's like, you know what? My best is good enough. I'm just going to go give them my best, and we're going to see
Yeah.
what happens. And if I
Exactly.
fail, good. I just learned what doesn't work. Edison, how many light bulb
Yeah.
filaments did he try?
Jeez.
Thousands. And
Yeah.
they said you failed thousands of times. And he said, no, I
Right.
didn't. I learned thousands of ways to not make a light bulb.
That's right.
And if that guy hadn't had a confidence, probably a little bit of overconfidence.
Yeah. Well,
But if he hadn't had that, we'd be still
yeah,
having
we wouldn't
candlelit
have all the
rooms right now.
sliders. It'll all be candlelit. There'd be no
Yeah,
monitors.
you listen to this on a turntable,
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah.
old Victrola.
Yeah. Exactly.
And when I stopped needing to have every answer up front, I gave myself that permission to just be in the game. Just
Right.
get out there, do something, even if it's wrong. My dad
Right.
used to tell me that all the time, and I was just like, he doesn't really want me to just do anything, even if it's wrong. That's literally what he meant. Go do something, even if it's wrong.
That's right.
You don't know how to lift weights?
Yeah.
Good. Go to the gym anyway. You'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And your first day at the
Get
gym,
out
you're
there.
still getting successes out of that. You're still
That's
getting
right.
work. You're still seeing positive results. Workout, even if you did it.
That's right.
Stop trying to be perfect. You'll never make it. Nobody's perfect.
That's right.
Closest guy to perfect, he lived about
Yeah.
2,000 years ago, and
That's right.
we all
That's
know
right.
what happened to him. So
Yep. Exactly. Yep. People don't even really need perfect. Your inner self's telling you got to be perfect. I got to, like, you don't. People don't expect that. What they want, what they need is being present, being prepared, and being proactive. So if you can do those 3, you're already ahead of like 90% of your competition.
exactly.
You know,
You don't know how far away they are behind you if they're not doing that. Because
That's
once
right.
you implement that, you're gonna be like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm the only game in town now.
That's
what the
right.
heck?
exactly right. So, all right, let's land this with some real stories, because I know some of you are thinking, sounds great, but does this really work in the field or my field? The short answer is absolutely. Let me show you what confidence looks like in action.
I'm glad you're telling these stories because I've literally watched this happen. Advisors who were stuck for years suddenly start winning once they flip the confidence switch.
Right. It's, first example I want to share with you is a advisor here in Florida. We were we were coaching last quarter
Oh yeah,
and bring.
great guy, but he'd never really positioned life insurance. He's so afraid of sounding, pushy or
Right.
saying the wrong thing. He just avoided it altogether.
That's right. And I remember when you first called him, and I think Matt said he doesn't need more product knowledge. He needs permission to lead the conversation.
Yeah,
Confidence.
yeah.
He needs
And so we
confidence.
walked him through the confidence framework we've been sharing here. Clarify that value, prepare like a pro, and then take action, even if it feels messy. Again,
That's
do
right.
something even if it's wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's so, what happened next? Tell us more.
Within 30 days, he closed a $98,000 target premium IUL case. His first real attempt at selling life insurance, and he hit a number most advisors don't hit all
That's
year.
right.
That was more than what he made his first year selling life insurance in one deal, all because he gave himself the permission to close that deal. It's like he was holding himself back the entire time.
Yeah. And that what changed it, it wasn't product knowledge.
Yeah,
He had that. It wasn't his marketing to get new brochures or new about me stuff. It's the way he showed up.
yeah. I mean, he stopped asking permission to
That's
lead the
right.
client and started guiding them confidently. Huge difference. I'm here to help you. Like, let me help you.
That's right.
You know. And you just go into every conversation like that, it's a lot easier to be an expert and just excellent because the person on the other end, they want help. They don't know this stuff.
That's
They don't
right.
teach life insurance people. You're the expert. Self like the expert. Would you listen to you? Good. Then they will too. Tell them what you got to say.
That's right. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with advisors, and I say you can have the best tools in the world, but if you don't believe in yourself, you don't have that belief, those tools, they sit there unused. And listen, if you're in the life insurance space, do yourself a favor, grab my book, Mastering the Sale of Index Universal Life Insurance. I wrote it for those advisors that I had in mind. I wrote it to make sure no advisor ever walks in an appointment unprepared or scared again.
Yeah. And I know I've watched advisors go from terrified of objections to loving objections after reading that book. Like they're on the edge of their seat saying, I dare you to tell me this is too expensive. I dare you to tell me you don't need this stuff. Please do, because I got 50 things I can say right now to change your mind. And they realize every objection is just an opportunity to build.
Exactly. After that book, objections don't shake you; they fuel you. They kind of give you that roadmap. When you're looking, like you said, when you're looking for that objection, you're actually want it steers you to, okay. Well, this is the road we need to take.
Right.
So people fear objections. With what that's really doing is setting. It's a question of clarity. What are they not understanding,
Right.
right? And so you don't want to fear it. You want it to go, okay, they're objecting. That's good. Now I'm going to steer it to where their concerns
Right.
are. The
The
objections
the
are great.
whole if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, the objections are the heat. What kind
That's
of dish
right.
you gonna make in the kitchen without heat?
That's right.
Probably not anything good. Ice water? So,
Nothing
start to
good.
look for that. Start to use the objection. Say, "I know they're gonna object. They're gonna
That's right.
object on price. Let me show them where their money's going and how it's growing."
That's right.
Like that because that's the price. I'm afraid of giving this money and it going to nothing. Let me show you exactly where it's going and how
Right.
you're gonna profit from it by following this.
That's right.
Where the other insurance agent might just be there like, "Oh, I could do it cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, that death
It-
benefit for that price. They're selling death insurance. Our advisors sell
right.
life insurance.
That's right.
Something you can tap into while you're still alive."
Right. Yeah. You don't have to die to get it.
Yeah.
And it's not all about life insurance. For those of you who want to level up overall, that's why I wrote another book called Mastering the Art of Influence. And it's to help you build trust faster, to connect deeper, and lead conversations that move people into action. Um, so if you're tired of guessing what to say to clients and you want to stand out from every other uh, advisor, if you're in the advisory world or in whatever you're selling, it really helps you guide you through it. It's a game changer. This customer intelligence guide will show you how to uncover what your clients really want and close them in a way that feels natural, not salesy.
Right. And all three of those books, they've been game changers, not just for me, but for the advisors I work with every day that didn't know how to position expensive insurance. They're trying to sell the cheapest stuff that was out
That's
there, and
right.
they were afraid, they were scared to have that conversation about cash value life insurance. It's a little bit more expensive. I don't think my clients are going to go for it. Clients telling you that, or you?
That's right. It's because of confidence. Confidence isn't a vibe, man. It's a skill, and these tools they sharpen
Exactly.
it. So bottom line, confidence isn't a magic wand, but it sure is the closest thing that I've seen to one. This is it. It seems like it's so hard to get, and really, it's just a tweak here or there, and prepare. And a lot of people don't prepare,
Right.
you know. And so, if you're not prepared, then you don't have confidence because I didn't really prepare for this meeting,
Right.
and it gets exposed pretty quick. I mean, talk about not preparing. Sanders was supposed to be a first round pick, right, Shador? He was supposed to be a first round pick. He goes to meet uh, Brian Dable, the head coach of the New York Giants, who's an offensive guru,
Right.
and this guy wasn't prepared. And Dable was, from what I'm reading, pretty pissed about it.
Yeah.
And you just saw, and I guess he didn't just do it with him. He did it in a lot. He wasn't prepared. He just thought he had it. He had the moxie, kind of living
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
vibe that his dad
He
did.
drafted off his
Right.
reputation. You
But
know?
what he didn't know, and because he wasn't born with it, his dad had a lot of moxie, but he backed it up. And in the NFL, you got to earn it
Right.
to get there.
Everybody in the NFL
Yeah.
was the best player on their team.
That's
Every
right.
single one of them for their
That's
whole
right.
life.
And it's the same thing, when you go from a high school student to a college, and you're in you're playing now D1, and you were the all-star, you were the king of the high school, and then you come into
Fifth
college.
on the depth chart.
Yeah, you're amongst all the other kings
Yeah.
of those high schools. You got to work.
Yeah, you got to work hard, and it's the confidence. You can bring it back
That's
to
right.
confidence. The guys that are like, you know what? When I was a freshman in high school, I didn't make varsity,
That's
but I
right.
worked hard and I made it.
That's right.
Well, I'm the fifth free safety they got on this team. If I
That's
want to
right.
play, I'm gonna have to work at it.
Got to
And
work
I know I
hard.
can
That's
do
right.
it because hey, look, I went to my victory log,
That's
opened up
right.
my high school yearbook, and saw that I was National Junior Honor Society and football captain, and I had the hottest girl at homecoming.
That's right.
So having that victory log that you can reflect back on to say I've done this
Bingo.
before reinforces that confidence for you and gives you that purpose to
Yep.
say, oh no, I can do this. I've already done it.
Yeah.
Just a matter of time, kind of.
Yeah. So let's bring this home. I want you to remember this. Confidence is not reserved for the chosen few. It's not something you wait to feel. It's something you train yourself to build brick by brick, action by action. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything. You just need to decide that this version of you is no longer going to sit on the sidelines of your own potential. So the next time you walk into an appointment, that pitch, that opportunity you walk in, like someone who's done the work, someone who's rehearsed it, someone who's already envisioned the win. Because belief is contagious. When you truly believe in your value, others will do the same.
And look, I've lived it. I've seen what happens when you flip that switch. You start playing offense with confidence. You stop
Yeah.
chasing clients, start attracting them to you almost like a magnet.
Yeah, that's true.
And you stop apologizing and you start advising. Like,
Yeah. So here's what I want you listeners to do. This week, take one small courageous action and prove to yourself that you can handle it. Track that win and let it fuel the next one. That's a key because the version of you that gets everything you've been chasing, it starts with one confident step. Make sure you hit like, follow. You want more info on one of my game-changing books, then type book. This is Plan Life Right. I'm Kevin Ross. That's Matt Floyd. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same mission. Until then, believe bigger and believe in yourself.